Welcome to our channel! Today, we're diving into one of the most pressing environmental issues of our time, deforestation, and its devastating impact on animal ecosystems. Forests, once teeming with a rich diversity of creatures, are disappearing at an alarming rate. Stay tuned as we uncover 7 shocking consequences of deforestation on wildlife. Ultimately, the most dire consequence of deforestation is the risk of extinction for countless animal species. The natural world is a delicate web of interconnected life. When one thread is pulled, the entire fabric can unravel. Imagine a world where the haunting calls of exotic birds no longer echo through the trees, where the rustle of leaves no longer signals the presence of a stealthy jaguar. This is the grim reality we face as deforestation pushes more and more species towards the brink. The loss of habitat is often the most immediate threat. As forests shrink, animals are deprived of the food, shelter, and breeding grounds they need to survive. Picture a family of orangutans, their once vast rainforest home reduced to a few isolated trees, struggling to find enough fruit to sustain themselves. Fragmentation of forests further exacerbates the problem. When forests are divided into smaller, isolated patches, animal populations become cut off from one another. This isolation reduces genetic diversity, making species more vulnerable to disease and less adaptable to environmental changes. The Javan rhinoceros, the Sumatran orangutan, the Amur leopard. These are just a few of the countless animals facing an uncertain future due to deforestation. Their numbers dwindle with each passing year, their very existence hanging by a thread. But extinction is not a foregone conclusion. By understanding the devastating consequences of deforestation, we can work together to protect these magnificent creatures and ensure their survival for generations to come. As deforestation encroaches on wildlife habitats, animals are forced into closer proximity with human populations. This can lead to increased conflicts, as animals may raid crops or invade human settlements in search of food and shelter. Imagine a farmer, his livelihood dependent on his crops, only to find his fields ravaged by a herd of elephants desperate for sustenance. Or a family living in fear as a tiger, displaced from its shrinking forest, roams closer to their village in search of prey. Such interactions often result in negative outcomes for wildlife. Retaliation from humans, driven by fear or economic loss, can exacerbate their decline. In some cases, animals deemed a threat are killed or injured, further diminishing their already fragile populations. The tragedy of human-wildlife conflict is that it benefits neither party. Animals lose their lives or are driven further towards the brink, while humans face economic hardship, fear, and the potential for injury. But there are solutions. By establishing buffer zones between forests and human settlements, implementing wildlife corridors to allow animals safe passage, and promoting coexistence strategies, we can mitigate the risk of conflict and foster a more harmonious relationship with the natural world. By addressing the root causes of human-wildlife conflict, we can create a future where both people and wildlife can thrive. Forests play a crucial role in regulating the Earth's climate. They act as massive carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it in their trees and soil. When trees are cut down, the carbon stored in them is released back into the atmosphere, contributing to climate change. Imagine a giant sponge soaking up excess water and keeping a surface dry. Now imagine that sponge being wrung out, releasing all that stored water back into the environment. This is essentially what happens when forests are destroyed. The consequences of this carbon release are far-reaching. Climate change is altering weather patterns, leading to more extreme events such as droughts, floods, and heat waves. These changes can have devastating impacts on wildlife, disrupting migration patterns, breeding seasons, and habitat suitability. For example, rising temperatures can force species to shift their ranges in search of cooler climates. However, habitat loss and fragmentation can make it difficult for animals to adapt, putting them at greater risk of extinction. The link between deforestation and climate change is undeniable. By protecting our remaining forests and promoting sustainable land management practices, we can help mitigate climate change and safeguard the future of our planet's precious biodiversity. Chapter 4. A delicate balance, disrupting the web of life. The intricate web of life that sustains our planet is built upon a delicate balance. Within each ecosystem, a complex network of relationships exists between predators and prey, plants and animals, and even microscopic organisms. Deforestation disrupts these delicate food chains and ecological balances, with cascading effects throughout the ecosystem. Imagine a pristine rainforest, teeming with life. A troop of monkeys feasts on ripe fruit high in the canopy, dispersing seeds that give rise to new trees. A jaguar stalks its prey on the forest floor, keeping herbivore populations in check. A network of fungi decomposes fallen leaves, releasing nutrients back into the soil. Now picture that same rainforest fragmented by logging roads and clear cuts. The monkeys, their food sources diminished, are forced to compete with other animals for dwindling resources. The jaguar, its hunting grounds reduced, struggles to find enough prey to survive. The delicate balance of the ecosystem is thrown into disarray. The removal of even a single species can have ripple effects throughout the food chain. For example, the loss of a top predator can lead to an overabundance of herbivores, which in turn can overgraze vegetation and alter plant communities. By disrupting the delicate balance of ecosystems through deforestation, we risk unraveling the very fabric of life that sustains us all. Chapter 5: Islands in a Sea of Change. Fragmentation and the isolation of species. Imagine a vast, unbroken expanse of forest, stretching as far as the eye can see. Now picture that same forest fragmented by roads, farms, and urban development, reduced to isolated patches of green in a sea of human-altered landscapes. This is the reality for countless species as deforestation continues to carve up their once connected habitats. Fragmentation has profound consequences for wildlife. It restricts animal movement, making it difficult for them to find mates, access resources, and maintain genetic diversity. Imagine a solitary jaguar confined to a small forest fragment, unable to find a mate or disperse to new territories. Isolated populations are also more vulnerable to disease, environmental changes, and other threats. With limited genetic diversity, they are less adaptable and more susceptible to extinction. Fragmentation can also disrupt migration patterns. The fragmentation of habitats is a silent threat, slowly but surely chipping away at the resilience of ecosystems and pushing species towards the brink. Chapter 6: A World Less Vibrant, the Erosion of Biodiversity. Biodiversity, the incredible variety of life on Earth, is under threat like never before, and one of the biggest culprits is deforestation. As forests are cleared, we lose not only trees, but also the countless species that depend on them for survival. Imagine walking through a lush rainforest alive with the sounds of insects buzzing, birds singing, and monkeys chattering. Now picture that same forest silenced, the vibrant tapestry of life reduced to a shadow of its former glory. Deforestation is driving a global decline in biodiversity, pushing species towards extinction at an alarming rate. The loss of each species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, weakens the intricate web of life and diminishes the resilience of ecosystems. Forests are home to an estimated 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity. When forests are destroyed, we lose not only these species, but also the valuable ecosystem services they provide. The erosion of biodiversity is not just an environmental issue, it's a human issue. Chapter 7: Where Once They Thrived, the Immediate Impact of Habitat Loss. The most immediate and devastating consequence of deforestation is the loss of habitat for countless species. Forests provide essential living spaces, nesting sites, food sources, and shelter from predators. When these forests are cleared, the animals that depend on them are left with nowhere to go. Imagine a family of orangutans, their once vast rainforest home reduced to a few isolated trees, struggling to find enough fruit to sustain themselves. Or a troop of monkeys, their canopy pathways destroyed, forced to navigate a dangerous landscape fragmented by logging roads. For many species, the loss of habitat is a death sentence. Without access to the resources they need to survive, they face starvation, predation, and exposure to the elements. The impact of habitat loss is particularly severe for species that are highly specialized to their environments. As forests disappear, so too do the intricate relationships between species. The loss of habitat is a global crisis, affecting species in every corner of the planet. Outro our shared future, protecting our planet's wildlife. The consequences of deforestation extend far beyond the loss of trees. Understanding these impacts is crucial for promoting conservation efforts and sustainable practices. Stay tuned for our next discussion, where we'll explore practical solutions and initiatives that are making a difference in wildlife conservation. Outro 2. Join the movement. From supporting organizations dedicated to protecting forests to making conscious consumer choices that promote sustainability, each one of us has a role to play. Together, we can make a difference.